Well, Coach Beckwith, welcome to KYPD. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Appreciate you having me on, Ty.
Yeah, well, looking forward to it. Okay, Coach, so you just wrapped up your first season there in Natchitoches as the D-line coach there at Northwestern State. But today, like we do every week, we're going to start off by taking things back to the beginning, which is for you is New Orleans, Louisiana. So take us through your journey through the game of football up to this point.
Well, I guess I started playing really, really early in my life. 4 or 5 years old. I grew up watching my older cousin Derek Beckwith. He played at LSU, played middle linebacker at LSU, and we always would go to Baton Rouge and be, big Tiger fans, big LSU fans. He ended up going to the NFL, and then my younger cousin, he ended up going play linebacker at LSU as well. So, football has always been a part of my family. I started playing early and then all the way throughout high school. So I had a severe injury with my back. I had a severe spinal injury that sidelined me. It took away my career. And that really, what got me into coaching. I was an undergraduate student assistant at the University of Louisiana. That's where I started. I like to call it, the walk-on coach. I walked on as a coach. I didn't get paid. I was in the office till 3 o'clock in the morning, not having a job, the typical struggle that you hear about. And, that really, cemented, all the grind and everything that really made me appreciate what we had to do moving forward. So just putting in all those hours, making sure that, everything was done right, getting started with Coach Hud. He really gave me my first opportunity. He saw the best in me. He showed me exactly what it meant to come in to work and grind every day. And I was doing it for free. And that's what really made me have to enjoy this stuff, making sure that I came to work with a positive mindset every day. And then, just progressing through my career, I got promoted 3 times throughout that organization, 2 times under Coach Hud and 1 time with Billy Napier. He kept me on his staff his first year at the University of Louisiana. That's a tremendous blessing, being in that transitional period of my career as a quality control coach. And then I ended up getting my first full-time job at Austin Peay State University. With Coach Hud, he left the University of Louisiana and got the job at Austin Peay. And that was my first full-time job. I'm really thankful for that. We went to the first round of the playoffs, first time in school history. We were top 5 in the country in rushing defense. And then went to the third round playing Montana State. A really big experience for me, seeing that environment and whatnot, and then getting this job down here back at home in Natchitoches, Louisiana at Northwestern State with Coach Laird has been a big deal to me as well. So that's where we're at so far.
So I talked to or asked this question a lot of guys who GA'd, who are student assistants, who kind of came up through that type of environment. What were some of those things, those invaluable lessons that you learned during those early days when you talked about when you're in the office till 3 a.m., breaking down film, probably doing room checks and class checks on kids and setting up recruiting visits? Like, what were some of those lessons that you took away from that time?
No job small enough, man. That's the number one thing I took away from it. A guy named Devin Ducote, he told me that when he was a GA. I was kind of looked up to him. When I was a student assistant, he was a graduate assistant. And I remember vividly, we were outside picking up trash, getting ready for official visit weekend. And, he was big. That's all I remember him saying was no jobs big enough or no job small enough to do even right now. I'm a full-time position coach, and I try to teach the GAs that we have in our organization. Look, do the small things. People, they see that. People see when you do the little things, and the little things add up in your organization. I'm big on culture, making sure that, I'm doing my job to the best of my ability. If I see a piece of trash outside on the ground, make sure we're picking that up. And, just the little things add up. So that's the major thing And know, when you're in that position right there and you're trying to work your way up, people see that, and people appreciate that. When they move on, they want to bring you a part of their journey, because they know that you got the right mindset to get the job done.
You mentioned Coach Hudspeth there. I actually played against him when he was coaching in North Alabama, and he had those really good teams there at UNA, and they whipped us pretty good every time we faced them. And then he was coaching Mississippi State when I was a high school coach in Mississippi, and so just kind of have crossed paths with him a couple times. But other than Coach Hud, who are some other coaches who have kind of really helped you along the way and poured into you and helped lead you along in this profession?
The big one right now, that sticks out is, Billy Napier. He obviously had what he did at the University of Louisiana, just seeing the culture, how, they that was their motto, or their team slogan was culture. And, it started within. It started with, personally, tapping into that mindset, of talking to that voice in your head, that discipline that you need to have every day to carry out your duties as a member of a team. And then as we get into football, you're going to hear me start talking about the weight room, like how that translates into the football field. And one thing, I just vividly remember Coach Napier put all the young coaches in the weight room, and it's a humbling experience. You think, oh, I didn't work my way up, but you start back at the bottom and you get back in the weight room. But Coach Hockey, the strength coach at the time, he talked about how he sees the weight room as a football field. And that really, I think that really helped my coaching career as well. Just seeing, when you get in the stands, you want to make sure that you're getting, a good base, just like you're getting in a squat rack. You want to make sure you're getting in a good base, have a good, the leverage and everything that we talk about in the weight room, it translates to the football field. So, two guys that stood out to me. And then also some mentors, Melvin Smith, older coach. He was a SEC coordinator, position coach
Yeah,
for a
he's
long
been
period of time.
everywhere. Yep, been
Oh, he's
everywhere.
been everywhere. So he was at the University of Louisiana with myself. And along with Coach Charlie Harbison, Coach Cheese. Those guys, tapped into me from the spiritual aspect, teaching me the Proverbs, the Book of Wisdom, and then Coach Hud, he's a hell of a coach, man. He gets a team going. He understands what it takes to win championships, so some big time guys that helped me out in my career.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely some great guys on that list. So when you make the transition from being an assistant, or a quality control or a GA or whatever, to now you are a full-time coach, a position coach, you have your own room. What's that like, that transition like, and how do you establish yourself as a position coach, in control of your own room? What's that like and that process like?
It's interesting because you now you get your first shot. You've been waiting for this moment your whole, you've been working for it for, however long you've been doing it, undergrad and QC and GA, and you kind of have an idea of what you need to get done. But it's awesome because whatever's on tape, that's on you. That's on you. So now it's nobody, you know, and you always trying to work up to something. A lot of guys in my position, the D-line coach, some guys want to be the coordinator, or some guys want to be the head coach. It's interesting until you get into that position. You never know. You have to, when you're the defensive coordinator, you're gonna be the first guy in line in the guillotine. If something goes wrong, you're gonna be the guy that. So you have to assume those. You have to assume those risks and take those risks in, and you got to make sure that you're doing the best job you can every day to get your guys ready to go. In that regard.
Yeah, that's always tough because, even for me being a high school coach, when you are, the guy and the guy that's all right, you're writing the practice plan, you're coming up with individual, what are we going to do? It is a little bit nerve wracking, and the tendency is to kind of fall back and sort of mimic those coaches that you came up under, right? Like for me, mine was to try to be my high school, my college D-line coach, and
Right.
talk the way he talked and do the same drills and stuff like that. And you figure out pretty quick that doesn't work. You kind of have to be yourself. So how did you come up with that? And what ways did you have to establish or pave your own way as a coach, as a position coach?
You hit it on the head, man. That's big. It's just being yourself, man. And one thing that, I pride myself on is having just a bunch of energy. I love the game of football. Like I said earlier, the game of football was taken away from me with a spinal injury. So, I had dreams and aspirations of playing on the next level of college football. And, I had opportunities to do that. But in my senior year of high school, the game was just ripped away from me. So, I didn't have an opportunity to just go out, like this is my last game, give the flowers and stuff like that. It wasn't a situation like that. So when the game was ripped away from me like that, it put it in perspective. When I got into coaching, and that's my message to my guys: play the game like it's your last snap. Like you never know when this thing is going to get taken away from you. You never know when you're away from an injury. You never know what's going to happen. So, you just got to make sure that you come to work every day and make sure you do the best you can every day, because you never know when this thing is going to be taken away from you. And that's the passion I coach with. I come to work every day. I love hitting the field with my guys. I love coaching them. I love loving on them. I love making sure that, I'm in study hall every day. The way our facility is set up, where my office is right across from the academic center. So I love going in there and making sure they're taking care of their business and just being a part of their everyday lives.
Well, I know that you got some video and stuff that you want to show us today, so I'll let you pull that up. But while you're doing that, I want to ask you this question because, again, this is something that every coach has to deal with, and that is sort of developing your own kind of coaching progression and how you want to go about doing things. It's easy when you're a young coach to try to steal everything that you hear, and then as you kind of get older and mature a little bit, you kind of figure out like what you want to do. So you start pulling things that are relevant to how you want to coach. So how did you go about developing this progression that we're going to talk about today?
Trial and error, just really studying the game of football, uh, paying attention. I used to love watching Monday Night Football with John Gruden. He was a teacher of the game. I really just listening to the people and watching documentaries from way back in the day, like when football first started, understanding leverage, when it was really just like rugby, it was just a scrum, and then just understanding how the game evolved and where the game is right now, just understanding the game of football, the history of the game has been big to me. So, I like to tell my guys, defense, we coach the defensive line, it's hard, guys, when you think about defensive line across the board, people might give us a stereotype or something, they might think we're just low IQ levels, so that's where, my progression comes into play. And I tell my guys, I want y'all to be smart. And that's an acronym, and that's our teach progression is SMART. So, and that's going into it, just understanding, the SMART, right? The situation, right? Situation and stance. That's what we're going to start off with, right? Situation and stance, right? Then going into your mode. What mode are you operating out of, right? Your alignment and your assignment, your read key, where are my eyes at, and then the technique. And we'll talk more about that, moving forward, just getting into it, right? So, talking about the situation, right? We got to understand this Division I football. It's big boy football. You got amazing offensive coordinators on the other side of the ball, but they also have tendencies, right? So, during the week, I love to give my guys, tips and reminders throughout the week, showing them the tape, showing them like this is exactly what you're going to get, right? So if a team is in, if they like to line up in duo, which is, 2-by-2 with the tight end off the ball in the hip and the sniffer position, and the back is in the pistol, right? we know based on the analytics throughout the week that they like to run the stretch to the Y 85% of the time. So, with that being said, I like to think about my defensive linemen like transformers across the line. If we playing a 4-man front, I like to think about them all. I want to give them all tools in their toolbox to be successful. So if I'm on the front side of this stretch right here, I want to make sure that I'm knocking this thing back. I want to make sure I'm playing a nice attack style of football, right? But on the back side of this stretch right here, right, you got to understand that a lot of teams, they like to cut on the back side of this stretch, right? So two different, and then on a way on the other side, you might have a defensive end that has to be in the defensive coordinator wanted to call a movement and want to put you in the B gap, but for whatever reason the offense comes out in this set where they're running a stretch on the opposite side, and you got to go from the C to the B gap, right? So now if you look across the board, you might have 3 different modes that you might be in, right? So the situation, right, you got to understand what exactly you're about to get, right? So, moving forward, then that right there evolves into the stance, and then the stance is directly related to the mode. So you can kind of see we're going through our progression, right? So the situation is telling me everything I need to know, right? The down and distance, the call with the coordinator call, right? And what's the down? Are we in a 2-minute or 4-minute situation, right? So then you get into your stance, and I like you talk about how did we develop this progression, and we talk about, I like to put myself in the game. I've always been a daydreamer. I've been in class. When I was in little school, my teacher used to send back reports to my mom and my dad talking about how he was just staring off into space. You're right, Miss Cindy. I was staring off into space. I was thinking about football. I was thinking about football. So I have a unique in my head. I see that I like to put myself in the game with my guys and make sure, like, thinking about the little intricacies that we have to see. So I'm going through the game. I'm getting the signal, right? I'm looking at the backfield set. I'm looking at the eyes of the offensive lineman, the intentions, looking at everything, right? So that's the situation, right? What time of the game are we in? And then we go into our stance, right? Which is directly related to our mode, which is the next step. So SM, right? So we're talking about spelling this smart out, right? Being a smart defensive lineman. So, if we get into attack mode, I want you in a different stance than if you were in a react or a pass mode, right? So we're talking about if you're in an attack stance, having more weight on your hand, less weight on your feet, right? Being in a heel to toe squat, stagger, right? And then here we go. We're talking about a back squat base, right? So we're talking about taking it from you right now. Everybody's in America is working out, talking about that base, making sure they're putting weight on the insteps of their feet, right? Not having a weight on the outside of your ankle, right? Rolling your ankle. Nobody's teaching that. You want to have good, weight on the inside of your body, right? So we talk about that when we talk about our stance. We're getting into that good, nice ankle, getting, putting those cleats in the ground and projecting that energy from the ground up, right? So that's what we're talking about with our attack stance, and we're getting ready to fire off, right? And then we get into our react mode where you might be 50-50, right? You can see right here on this PowerPoint right here, we got more. You can see this heel right here is more in the grass more so than this attack stance, right? Because he's going to be playing more lateral, right? So if I'm on the backside of the stretch, I don't want you running up the field knowing you're about to get cut. So we're going to be in a react mode, right? React stance, right? So we can play more lateral, right? Give you more vision, and so you can beat that cut block. And then you got different stances you can get. You got short yardage, right? Pass, this, that, and the third. And obviously we'll get to pass, right? But we're gonna get in the blocks right there, and we're gonna have less of a back squat base, and we're gonna get more of a staggered. I would like to have his butt up just a little bit more, right? And then we get into our mode, right? Which is
can
we
I
just talked
interrupt?
about it.
Can I
Yes,
interrupt really
sir.
quick on that while we're talking about the stances and different things?
Yes, sir.
So with those stances, is it based on the offensive formation, like pre-snap, like, okay, they're in duo, expecting stretch away. So instead of being in an attack stance, I'm going to be in a react movement stance, or is it based on the front that you guys are in?
Both. So it's that situation. All right. So that's a great question, right? So the situation it can be a lot of different factors. I like to tell my guys, right? You're going to get the call, right? And the defensive coordinator is going to want what he wants, right? If the call tells you to move and have a movement into another gap, right? That's what you got to do. You're going to have to get that done. But we're always born in attack mode. I want our guys to always be born in attack mode. So we're going to be using this attack stance. But like you just said, right, the offensive formation just told me analytically why, if they like to run the stretch to this side and I'm on the backside of the stretch, I don't want to be in an attack mode, right? We don't want to be running up the field when they're about to run stretch and I'm about to get cut. So I give them the tools, and like I said, this is Division I football. We want to make sure, I'm gonna give them all the tools that I want them to not be robots. I want them to be cerebral football players, right? It's very smart, and use those tools to their benefit, right? So the situation, if we go back, right, the situation can be the defensive call, the down and distance. If they come out in duo pistol, right, and it's 2nd and 11, and the analytics show that they don't like to. They might get in this formation and it's stretch, but on 2nd and 7 plus, they might be a big play action team. Let's play the numbers. You know what I'm saying? I want you to not be a robot out there, right? The time in the game. So if they line up in duo pistol and they need to score a touchdown and it's 57 seconds left in the game, like we're not playing around. We're not getting in a react. We're about to rush the passer. Right, so the formation and all of that stuff can dictate what we're going to do, from a defensive line standpoint, right? And then obviously, I say all of this, your coordinator has to be on board with you being able to do all of this stuff, right? They got to be on board with you, using all of these techniques, and it's a lot of teaching, and that's what I love to teach, man. I love to get these guys coached up. That's what the game of football is about, man. Is creating matchups in personnel or as matchups in the run game or using a certain technique at a certain time to beat, make a play. That's what the game is about. We're playing the game, right? So like we said right here, all the D linemen are born in attack mode unless the call of the situation tells me something otherwise, right? So this mode, so you see the defensive end right here, he's the defensive coordinator might have called easy, right? Put the end in the B gap, right? Single gap movement. So he's in a different mode, right? Than these cats over here. They're on the front side of the stretch, right? We want to cut the ball off, so they're gonna be in attack mode. They want to go make the play in the backfield. The ball is coming to them. Now on this side right here, he is born in attack mode. This nose, right? But he knows the tight end and then dual pistol, right? We want to make sure that we playing nice and lateral, making sure we give this guy vision. So he's going to put more weight on his heels, and he's going to be playing more lateral and making sure he doesn't get cut, because he's going to be 9 times out of 10, he's going to be the guy that makes the play, right? On the backside of the stretch, staying alive. If he gets cut, you playing Appalachian State, them guys, they'll run this thing, they'll run the stretch and cut this guy and hit it right down in your A gap. And you'd be really, really sad when that happens. It'd be
So
really sad.
is this something all those guys are communicating pre-snap? I'm assuming, like, hey, it's duo, and they're making sure everybody knows that. So now I can go, okay, I'm the nose, so I'm thinking I'm about to get cut because it's going to be stretched away from me. So I'm going to get into a react mode stance. Is that something that you guys are teaching them? They have to communicate pre-snap?
Yeah, I want them to communicate as much as possible. Just like the offensive line, you hear them guys communicate all day, every day. We got a deuce right here, or we got an eight, we got a single here, or we got five. You see the center on film, he'll tell you the protection on tape. So they're communicating, giving hand signals. I don't do too much hand signaling outside of the, in the run game, but we communicate. We'll tell the offense line, we know what the hell y'all about to run. Let's go. Let's line up and let's see who's gonna win the rep. Right. So, but yeah, we'll communicate. We'll make sure everybody's on the same page here. Right. But this got to, and it's a big boy. And like I said, he's been known since Pee Wee football. He's been a guy that, he don't like running gashers. He don't, that guy. So, he got to be a cerebral guy. And then at this level and at this time in football, that guy's got to be able to move. You can't just be a big blob and, just not be able to move. You got to be able to move right there. So big time play right here. And it's a great scheme if you're running, against you got some big guys, you want to run some outside zone against them big boys. All right. And then obviously assignment alignment. So that's the A in SMART, right? So I like to, when we talk about assignment, I like to tell them about, you're responsible for a gap, right? But we got to know what, more than that, right? So we got to know the option responsibility. Am I a dive player, a quarterback player? It's be rare if you have a defense lineman on the pitch, but if I am a pitch player, I got to know that, right? Then run fit responsibility. So if you get a kick out or somebody come and kick you out or, midline, am I a spill player? Am I a splatter player or box? Am I a mesh charge? Am I playing this thing fast? And then pass responsibility is along with that, right? So, do I have contain or non-thrown shoulder? What spoke am I finishing on the quarterback? So, detailing all of this stuff for these guys. Obviously, if you're moving from the C to the B gap, right, you're a B gap player. You got the dive. If you get midline and you get a midline wham or something like that, if they know some miraculous act of God, they know you're going to be in a B gap at the moment, right? They got your signal or something like that. You got to be a spill player if you get something coming through there, and then obviously you be non-throwing shoulder on the pass responsibility. So detailing that up, and then alignments. I like to talk about horizontal alignments and then vertical, so we gotta understand that, where we align horizontally and then vertically, it's to our benefit, right? So if you look right here, this is our horizontal alignments, and then we got the vertical alignment. So easy stuff right here. So this is the center right here, the offensive center, and then this is his feet. Obviously, this is kind of drawing right here. It's kind of weird, but this is his midline. This is the middle of his body, his crotch right here. So we line up right down on his crotch. My man hand on his crotch. That'll be obviously will be our hand in the ground, right down the midline of his body. We call that a tight alignment. If I just tell you getting a shade or a one, right? That's our base alignment. We'll put that hand right there on the inside of his foot. Then we got our loose alignment right there on the outside of his foot. Then we get wide, which is 1 foot, and then a ghost if we get pass rush situation and whatnot. Then our vertical alignments, that's some modern forms of money. I like to describe them as is a credit card alignment, right? So we're trying to crowd the ball, right? And then the bill alignment, so it's like putting a dollar bill right there, $100 bill, and you about 3 inches off. Just give you a little room, and we'll talk about that just for this nose down here, right? And then the bag alignment. So a lot of guys, you hear them nowadays, they say they get in the bag. So I tell them bag up. So you get about like a computer bag, right? Get a computer bag and back that thing up, right? So we translate that back to our progression right here, right? So on this side right here, we're expecting the stretch. We're on the strong side of the stretch. We're going to be knocking that thing back. We want to be credit card alignment. We want to be, right, obviously a little looser because we don't want to get reached. We're going to be in a wide. I got a little bit more real estate out here in the C gap, right? And then we're going to be playing attack, right? We want to knock that thing back and try to create, make that ball cut back, right? And then now, right, we know this backside guard likes to cut this nose, right? So we're going to be tighter, right, to this center, right? So I can get hands on him, right? Just being a cerebral football player, they can't, if I get hands on this center and he cuts me, that's a chop block, right? So I'm going to help myself out. And then I'm going to back up a little bit. And then we talked about my stance. I'm going to be playing more lateral. I'm going to have more cleats in the ground. My heel's going to be more in the ground. And I'm going to be playing more laterally. And then talking about this end over here, right? He's got to go to the B gap, man. And they're running stretch over here. So you got to be tight. You need to be tight, tight, tight. And then you need to back up a little bit to give yourself that angle to be able to puncture that B gap, right? So the alignments are big for me. And our grade alignments, if you're not in the right alignment, we're getting you a minus because, depending on where the back is, right? And we're just talking, let's stop talking about the stretch. We put the back, if the back's over here on the right side, obviously they're about to, if we plan America's offense, the 11 personnel offense where they like to run the zone or the air raid, right? We're going to be looser in our alignments over here on this side because, right, the ball is coming to us, right? So just understanding that and being cerebral football players, being smart, right? And then the read key is real simple, right? I like to talk about my primary key. I'm reading. I got the tip of this pad. Wherever I'm lined up on, if I'm lined up on the center, I'm keying the tip of that pad. If I'm the 3 technique, I'm the outside tip of that guard. 5 technique, tip of that tackle, right? But we like to talk about eye discipline, man. That's big, right? It's later on in our progression, but it's big, 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 right? It's a big, is huge factor in our success, right? So we like to talk about that laser beam focus on the tip of that pad, but we also talk about using our peripheral vision to see that ball movement, right? So I'm looking at the tip of that pad. I'll see through my peripheral vision, right? The outside vision of my eye, right? See that ball movement to activate my my movement or my technique, as well as using my peripheral vision to see if the back is moving around back there in the backfield. The backfield set is changing. So if the backfield set is changing, I don't want to take my eyes off my key and start looking in the backfield. I want to see that all through my peripheral vision. So we train that, in our ball key get-offs, right? Or our EDDs, right? We'll get to that in a minute, right? And then we get into our technique, which is a detailed expansion off of that mode, right? So with SM, right? The mode, it tells me what I need to be in. So I'm in attack, react, or if I'm in a movement mode. The technique is just a detailed expansion off of that. On the snap of the ball, what am I using them? So we talk about this movement. If I'm in a movement mode, right? The defensive coordinator just called it easy, right? So we have to go to this B gap, right? That's a single gap movement for us. Now they got different types of movements, right? You can go up and under, you get long stick. So that's the technique is the long stick aspect of it, or the single gap movement aspect of it, right? And then attack, they got guys that teach a 6-inch power step. They got guys that teach hips and hands like myself. I dabble in a little bit of both, right? You got react technique. Some people like to teach a true 2 gap when I'm in a 0, right? A lag technique. More of a react, like a TCU back in the day when they were in them frog stances and they try to truly read that thing and play in the backside A gap, or they try to 2 gap it, right? So different aspects, so different techniques for each mode, right? So that's a detailed expansion off. So that's our progression right there. And then, just moving, I do have, I do have, just a few clips of, getting into that technique, right? So we talk about hips and hands. That's a attack style of play for us, right? So attack, react, right? Stopping the run, right? So that's the technique is hips and hands, right? Hips and hands. So we're in attack mode, right? And we want to make sure. So this is just one microcosm of all the techniques we have. We got movements, we have reads, we have different types of modes we can be in, or techniques we can be in, moving forward, right? So right here, we want to make sure we're playing aggressive. It's attacking style of defensive player creates not back in the opponent's backfield, right? So that's obviously what we're looking for here at Northwestern State, right? We should be in an attack stance, having disciplined eyes, quick twitch, heavy hands, full, right? Hip extension. Now, this is a little different from some guys. Here's a great clip from Alabama, their training camp on HBO. This is my screen. I recorded this on my iPhone, right? It's a beautiful clip, right? But you can see right here, this guy's got his eyes up, his neck on a brace. You can see right here in the corner of this clip right here, he's got his weight on the inside of his toes. His cleats are getting balled up on his big toes. He's got his hands ready to go, right? Only thing I would say, I would like his hand to be in front of his helmet right here, right? In front of his, we don't never want our eyes in front of our hand, because if the ball was right here, we'll be offsides, right? So we'll have that hand in front of our eyes right here, right? But he's got a nice flat back. He's got that offhand ready to strike, right? And this is a great, and we teach a 2-foot push, right? So a lot of people, they teach a 6-inch power step, and then they get that second foot in the ground and they redirect, or they jump out them hips. And I got a lot of respect for that aspect. We do teach that here at Northwestern State, but we want to create knockback. And I truly believe that you get all that energy from the ground through the midline of your body, coming through your core, and you using your hands as your hips, and your hands are the things that's creating that knockback. So you can see him pronating and supinating his hands, his eyes on his target. He's laying his hands, he's striking, he's doing a power clean, right, through the chest cavity of this offensive lineman, right? And you can see the hip extension coming through, and he hasn't taken a step at all yet, right? And you can see the full hip extension, right? All the way from the ground, right, through his hips, through this, going into the chest cavity of the offensive lineman, right? And then just on the snap of the ball, right, you can see where he started at, right? You can see where he started at, right, behind the line of scrimmage, right? This is the line of scrimmage. It's a great clip, man. Then he's launching, he's doing a power clean into the chest cavity of the offensive lineman, right? And then he ends up on the side of the line of scrimmage. And we just slowed that down. As soon as that rock snaps through my peripheral vision, I'm snapping, right? And I'm doing a very fast power clean into the chest cavity of the offensive lineman. So that's the, I like to show my guys a bigger picture before we get into the smaller aspects of this technique, right? So stance, we talked about it already, and then our eyes, right, is the get off, right? We take pride in that attack stance, right? We take pride, we work it, all right? We're getting into we're making sure we're crowding the football with that credit card alignment, right? Peripheral the ball for movement, and my eyes are always below his eyes, and my hands are above my eyes, right? And that's how we talk about leverage. So this is a great clip right here, right? We talk about, EDDs, right? This is an everyday drill, right? Talking about getting a credit card alignment, making sure that these guys understand what that looks like. So we get a side shot of this thing right here. You can swipe a credit card right there through these guys' helmet right there between the ball, right? And then we're gonna do I make money on this right here, man. We do walkthroughs on this, right? And then right here, we go from, if they want to motion the tight end over, we playing an over front, right? A 4-man front, we'll motion this deal over, right? And we'll walk through stuff. We'll do walkthroughs like this, right? Getting in stances, going off movement, right? If your guys are jumping off sides, that's on you, right? So this is an everyday drill. It may get boring, but you hard count them guys throughout the week, right? And make sure they ready to not jump off sides in the game, right? And then here we go, getting off on the rock, right? Hips and hands, and now we're going through, right? Making sure we on these agility bags, got the bags just for make sure we have a good base while we're gaining ground in the backfield, right? And then now we're going off of movement, right? Reacting, hoop, right? Getting a reaction key, hips and hands, that key in my hands for movement, right? To start the drill, right? And then we're moving off of stimulus right here, making sure we turning and running to the football, right? That's another really important aspect that we teach is the swarm. We call it the purple swarm defense. We want to make sure we're getting 11 hands to the football and punishing the ball carrier, making them want to tap out, right? Hand placement and mechanics, right? We talk about, right, my eyes are telling my hands where to go, right? So you saw it in the first clip, my eyes are telling my hands where to go, right? So we talk about my hands above my eyes. We always talk about that, right? Pronate and supinate, right? We don't want our thumbs up and our elbows in, right? So in our stance, we're gonna be pronated, right? Which means, right, I should have a downward U. If I put my hands together, I should have a downward U. My fingertips should be facing the offensive line, right? My fingertips are on pointed towards the offensive line. So that's a pronated position. And then when we strike the offensive lineman, we want to supinate with the thumbs up, elbows in. And then if we're shaded, we want to be attacking that midline of that offensive lineman. And then the gap side of that offensive lineman creates some shock, right? That midline hand is a very important aspect. That's the one that's going to bring the thump, right? And then that gap side hand is going to be your in state farm. You make sure you got that in there. So we start off right now. We in a 6-point position, and we just firing off. And this is a easy drill to do real quick. We still going on ball stimulus, right? But we're not coming on our hips just yet. But I want them guys focusing on getting them things pronated and supinated real fast. This is like one of the first drills we do coming out of our get offs, right? Pronating and supinating, hitting that bag real fast, getting out of there with tempo, hitting that sled, making sure we're getting that done. And then we'll slow it down. This is like an OTA setting right here. Then so you can see him pronated just like he was in his stance, right? You got that downward U, right? His eyes are telling his hands where to go. So that progression is still rolling, right? So we here, midline gap side, great job right here by Kwame. Make sure we pronate, supinating with those elbows in, right? And then here we go with a nice, easy progression, right? Midline gap side, midline gap side. Then we bring our feet, gap, right? And then what? Secondary gap if we need to go into our secondary gap. And then we talk about steering right here, right? We call this fit reach, great hand placement, right? Getting extension. That's the next part of it, right? Once I get them hands in there, I want to create extension, create knockback, get that thing locked out, right? As I start to peek through that gap, right? I want to keep his ass locked out, right? Don't want to bring that elbow in. Don't want to rebend that elbow, bring him into my body, right? So we work on steering this thing right here, right? And then from a stance, we just keep progressing it, right? So we just, boom, midline, you can see right here with his hands, right? Big Mo, you can see that midline. You can see we slow this thing down, right? That thumb up, that elbow in right there in that midline of his body, right there. If that thing slips up, I'm going to start choking him out, all right? Grabbing that neck. Y'all didn't hear that, right? We want to make sure we want to torture this guy, right? And then here's a great clip, right? Trev Miller, right, against Georgia Southern. Boom, sit his ass down, right? Creating violence, right? Make him stop his feet, midline gap side, make a play, right? Rest of them getting to the ball, right? Violent strike, right? We watching Ringo right here. He's playing number 70. He plays for the Saints right now. Had the pleasure of coaching him at the University of Louisiana, right? We talk about, man, just lifting a guy up and telling him what the hell to do, right? With that strong midline hand, baptizing his ass, right? And now we're getting off a block and making a play, right? So that's what them hands got to be, you got to want to choke somebody out, right? And we starting to get a little R-rated right now. Sorry.
Yeah, you're all good. It's all I mean, it's hard to coach this position and play this position
right
without that mentality. So, you know, you had to be violent with your hands. And, you know, I'll just take this moment to kind of interject here. I think in years past, I spent a lot of time probably over coaching a first step, and sort of what you're talking about kind of reaffirms it. But that if you really take the focus off of that and focus on those hips and hands, that step usually takes care of itself.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, man, if you get in a stance and you throw your hands and your hips in any direction, that's your feet are gonna follow you, man. Your feet are gonna follow you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, great stuff there. And that's I'm actually coaching linebackers now, but there towards the end, coaching those D linemen, we stopped worrying about that as much and really focusing on hips and hands, and saw a lot of improvement with us. Our initial punch off the ball, which is huge, you know, obviously for any D lineman.
Big, huge. And like I said, a lot of guys teach that 6-inch power stuff, and I actually teach it as well. And it's just easy. It's to me, it's a lot more teaching. It's you know, guys, they're not going to be used to this technique, right? And you know, you got to do a lot of teaching. You got to have a lot of conviction in order to keep teaching it, because guys are not going to look how you want them to look right there. Day one is going to look bad, but you got to have that stuff on film and coach these guys up on that stuff. And once you get it cooking, man, it's like some good gumbo, man. It's like some good gumbo.
I hear you. So you showed us a few of your drills that you're working through there. Talk to us about those drills and kind of the progression that you use with those. Are you using a lot of the post mounts or the sleds, and starting out at a 6-point progression and working your way up? Talk to us about some of your drills that you showed us.
Yeah, so I'm always, starting things off, man. I'm gonna have them guys start off, and I'll find if we don't have a sled, and I love talking to high school coaches, and that's why Coach Smith, a huge mentor to me. He's from the Delta, Mississippi. He's always talking about like being creative and being, if you're at a program with not a whole big budget for equipment, and being creative and finding stuff, we'll have a pad on a wall and start getting some 6-point explosion going. Like finding things, we don't need a whole bunch of equipment to get this work right. So, but I like to start these guys off, especially so we're getting into some explosion right here, some 6-point explosion right here. I like to take their feet away, right? So we're talking about right hands and eyes, right? And then now we're talking about the hips, right? So you want to take those feet away from them guys just so you get the upper body, the eyes trained. You want to make sure you get those hands trained, right? And then you want to for sure make sure that that those hips are coming, because that's where that them hips is where the power is. So talking about this drill right here, so we're talking about a 6-point hip explosion, right? And there's a lot of teaching in here too. Now if you're not just hitting the sled, we're trying to do it with some purpose, right? So right here, we're gonna make sure we keep talking about pronating and supinating these hands. So he's got his hands pronated right now, and then he's gonna supinate them on the snap, right? So we have a ball key going on in here, right? And then here we go. We got the hips following those hands. We got those eyes up. We want to make sure we keep our eyes on that offensive lineman, and we want to keep that neck on a brace, right? And then we obviously got somebody behind them, locking them in, right, with his cleats. Make sure those heels don't come up and extend these hamstrings. You take some stress off those hamstrings, right? So that's a great clip right here. Now we're getting into
That's a pretty
same
picture.
thing. Yeah, really great picture right here. So, and then right here, so we got Jason Williams right here, All-American off the edge at Austin Peay, right? Really explosive guy, right? He jumps off the rock, right? And he comes off of the we call this locking him in with Josephus right here. He's got him locked in, but he jumps off the ball, right? And he's shooting those hips, right? Only thing I would say about him right here, you can tell a lot by you want to take a line right here and you want to go right there through the offensive line or this pad right here, right? So his head, he starts to go up, right? And we don't want to, that's our pad level rising up. You can see Gale over here, he's going more out, and then he's going more up. But I love the explosion. It's a great clip to show explosion. Those hips are coming, and that sled doesn't want no more of that deal right there. So, and then here we go at Northwestern State. Explosion, right? Hands from the ground to the man, going on movements. We always want to go on movement, right? We start off a movement, right? Getting off on the rock, and now we get into our hands and our hips, right? And then, like I said, getting creative, right? So you medicine ball, right? I love to use medicine balls, even in pass rush. Like we talk about turn, big turn of those shoulders and hips, right? So we talk about using the medicine ball. So pressing into this medicine ball with the palm of our hand, the butt of our hands, and then using it right, really keeping these these arms straight, right? And just these things, these medicine balls, they're not 20 pounds or nothing like that. It's about 6 or 8 pounds, right? And I want you to focus on firing your hips, and letting this thing just do what it does, right? And it's like a trust fall. Just fire your hips and see what happens. And then so we have guys lined up right in front of them. And then here you go. So now you're getting right, those hands coming, right? You got the neck on the brace. You can see this is Dunbar right here. This is Carmichael Dunbar. He's doing a phenomenal job coaching right now with the Florida Gators. Coach Napier brought him over there to be a strength coach, right? He's coaching the big boys over there in Florida, right? But he's a fundamentalist, right? So here it is. You see the full hip extension, right? And then medicine ball just provides a little bit of, resistance to get that done. But them guys did a hell of a job.
Yeah, I like that. It's a lot like kettlebell swings in the weight room. You know,
That's
kind of
right.
letting your hips explosion move the kettlebell, and there you're letting those hips move that ball to put the emphasis on that. I like
Oh
that a
yeah,
lot. That's
yeah.
a great drill.
Yeah, and just being resourceful, man. Just using whatever you can to get the job done, right? So now we give them back their feet. They've been in the 6 point the whole time. Right now we give them their feet. Now we want to see the same thing. We want to see hips and hands, right? We want to make sure that we getting the same thing, right? And we, like I said, I like to tell these guys, right, when we're teaching this technique, right, you got a block of cement, right? Somebody just poured a block of cement and you just stuck your feet in there and you just let it get hard, right? Not, I don't want you to move them feet just yet, right? We want to make sure we getting full hip extension, right? Right. Our hands are above our eyes, right? We got our eyes up, neck on the brace, getting that full extension from those Achilles all the way to them phalanges up there, right? Full extension. Then we're getting on this sled right here where you gotta see. I like to hit different types of sleds. So this one is going up, right? And then this one right here, Zion Hill, he's still at the University of Louisiana, #4. He's done a hell of a job over there right now. He should get a look at the league next year, right? But going in, pressing that thing in, I would love to see his neck on a brace right here, getting his eyes up, right? But he's still getting full hip extension right here. Same thing right here with Maurice Campbell here at Northwestern State. Here we go, right? Full hip extension, right? You can see he's starting to buckle just a little bit. This right here. We got to work on that core, and that's what we're working on, right? But look at Gino over here. Great extension, right? Getting that thing locked in. Would like this thing, his head more on a brace, right? A great job right here. Now we got Yarba. See, he's starting to take a step right here that see, it naturally happens. If you talk about a 6-inch power step, that 6-inch power step gonna come, right? But we want to look at Donovan Green over here, right? That's a beautiful picture right there of the hip extension, right? Going from the ground to the man, right? And then we're gonna give him, and like I said, you can hit it in different ways, different sleds, right? If you just got pop-ups at your school and you don't have a ball on the stick, you use your script, right? Do whatever you got to do, right? We want to make, now we got them under the chute, make sure they don't go up, right? So we're talking about this pad level. We want to make sure we're going out and not up, right? Boom, boom, right? So Nate, see how Nate doesn't, I want him to leave his feet, but he's not trusting it all the way, right? I love to coach off these bad clips. Right, so we should get, right, come on back here. Let's make sure we get this thing right. Yep, now we're getting it right, right? So we get that full extension, right? That's beautiful. That's a beautiful shot right there, right? Let's make sure we, same deal right here, right? So we're working off a goalpost. So it's different things. So like you're saying, being resourceful, making sure we hitting, we can hit it all different ways, right? And then here we go. We're playing Louisiana Tech, right? Create knockback, right? This is a two gap technique, right? Primary, secondary, make the play, create knockback, making that back have to run the hoop, right? And then now I'm gonna give them back their feet, right? So we hit the sled, right? Now we come out with full hip extension. And now I got this bag, this agility bag between their legs, and we're hitting this sled, right? We're still gonna fire off, boom, right? And we wanna activate those feet, activate those feet, activate those feet. Now we're out, right? And then here we go, right? So this is one of my favorite drills right here, right? So we hit the sled, boom, make sure we laying out. So we call it 3-point layout, right? And then I call it a BPR, buzz, peak, release, right? So we're gonna work our full progression. We're gonna make sure we get, so on the snap of the ball, these guys should already, boom, explosion, just like we've been doing, right? Then I got the whistle right here, all right? And then we get one whistle, buzz, right? 2 whistles, peak, right? And then the third whistle, release, right? Working our full progression, right? Good job right here by Logan Brown right here. He got to get his eyes up and his neck on a brace, right? Good job right here by Gino, right? Great picture right here, right? And then we're going to, right, buzz, peak, and then release off the block, right? So that's our progression right there. That's our hips and hands progression right there. right? Always going off of stimulus, right? If you don't have a GA like me, right, get your guys that's back online, right? Let's snap the ball. We got to make sure we getting all those little things done in practice, right? Buzz peak release, right? And I might go into a secondary gap, to do a little teaching on that, right? But that's our progression, right? And that's just one, right? Hips and hands, right? Attack mode, we can go, infinity and beyond with this stuff, right? And go into movement and all that good stuff.
1 second while I take my mute off. Okay, so Coach, that's some great stuff. And if I'm a young defensive line coach and I'm kind of searching this spring for, man, how do I go about establishing my coaching progression, or what I'm going to do, and where do I start with these guys? I mean, that's it. That's where you start. And whether you've been doing this for 2 or 3 years or for 20 years, I mean, that's the stuff that that you never get away from. You gotta make sure you're emphasizing that stuff daily. And those are some great drills. When you're kind of studying and looking around in the off season and checking out different guys and what they're doing, who are some other D-line coaches that you like to check out or study? Just when you're looking at, how they coach things and how they do things with their D-lines.
Man, I love my guy Brandon Jordan. Man, that's been my guy since he trained me in high school, and he just got his first his real big break at Michigan State.
Right.
That's one
Yeah.
of my best friends. Yeah, so
New Orleans native too, right?
New Orleans native, man.
Yeah.
His story is unbelievable. We kind of have a similar story, but he is a creative, really creative guy. Just like we talked about, like, you don't need a whole bunch of equipment. He'll have shoes out there, cleats, and but I love bouncing ideas off of guys like that. And then, I'm always looking at Coach Henny from the Rams, Coach Kiffin. I worked under him. I did a minority internship with him with the Cleveland Browns. Just the amount of the detail when I was with those guys. He was talking just like we just did. He's talking to Myles Garrett about pronate and supinate, making sure that they hitting the details. Pete Jenkins, I always watch his stuff. I got a million clips, on my hard drive from him. Making sure we, he changed the game, defensive line and play. So I always love to, go back and see what he taught, and then, of course, just like, these guys, these air raid guys, evolving the game, we want to make sure this next generation of defensive line coaches, we make sure we're paying the game some respect and trying to be creative, but also paying attention to the fundamentals, right? That we're never going to run away from those fundamentals, watching the ball, getting off. Like as a young coach, you might think you got it figured out, but when you don't do get offs for 2 weeks and see what happens, So
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So that's where we're at with it, man. Trying to make sure we're respecting the game and doing it the right way.
All right, Coach. Well, I want to make sure before we get you out of here today, that we close out with some rapid fire questions and put you under the gun a little bit. So,
yeah,
what do you say? You down for some of that?
Let's go.
All right, cool. Well, we've already alluded to the fact that you're a New Orleans native. So, and obviously D-line coaches, we like to eat. So what I want to hear is what's your favorite New Orleans dish? It's got to be something blackened or, something spicy, crawfish, something, but what's your favorite New Orleans dish?
I gotta go with Eugene's red beans, man. That's my dad's red beans. Second to none, man. The second to none. And it's hard, going to a restaurant or something like that in New Orleans or anywhere, and getting some red beans, because it's just not the same, man. That's those red beans and rice with some chicken, man. It's hard to beat.
What's the secret? Like, what's the secret to the red beans and rice that your dad makes? Like, what's the separate? Can you share that?
He'll probably kill me, but I'll tell you, man, it's the smoked meat. I think it's smoked, like smoked turkey necks or anything smoked, adding some smoke, and then thyme, and you can't get it out the you can't get the beans out the can, man. You gotta be willing to put a little time in, have some time, spend some time with it, and make sure those beans get nice and tender, starting off from scratch. You know.
Oh, man, that's good stuff right there. I'm kind of ready to. If you could send me a bowl of your dad's red beans and rice, I think
Oh, we got to make that
that hit
happen.
the spot right now. Okay, we're going to keep the New Orleans theme going. So, New Orleans Saints are in a little bit of a kind of a transitional period right now. Okay, so what's their move at quarterback? What do they need to do at quarterback in order to ensure that they can continue to not only be relevant in the NFC and in the NFL, but take that next step and be a Super Bowl caliber team again?
They need to go get they need to go get Russell Wilson, man. They need to go get Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers, if I was the New Orleans Saints, I would sell to him, man. You don't have to that last game you just played in Lambeau. I know it's Lambeau Field. You played enough games in Lambeau. Let's start playing some games indoors and let's see, if the dome could be a little bit more of an advantage for you, so you don't have to throw the ball and have frostbit fingertips, trying to throw that rock.
Yeah, hey, and maybe sending some red beans and rice might be a good move
Oh,
on your part to kind of help entice and bring him down here a little.
that's right.
I'm sure he's not getting that up in Wisconsin.
Oh no, you're not getting that in Wisconsin.
Okay, here's the next question for you. Ex-student coach, ex-GA. We've all been there. It's late at night or it's in the afternoon. We're breaking down film. Our eyeballs are falling out of our head. What's your best technique for staying awake, staying alert when watching film, breaking down film? And you've been doing it for a while. What's your best technique for staying awake in those times when it's really difficult?
Just referring back to my in high school, I worked on Coach Renata, man. That was my freshman football coach. He was a hard-nosed coach, but he owned a tomato farm. And if you know anything about Louisiana, it's hot. And I worked on that tomato farm during the summertime, and it's not fun. It is not fun. It's hard labor. So when I'm in a situation where if I'm thinking like I got it hard or something like that, and I'm in the AC, right? I'll slap myself because I know, they got grown people out there, picking tomatoes on their hands and knees, and so I'll use that as motivation. I'm very fortunate to be able in the position that I'm doing something that I really love to do, right? And then if it gets really bad, I use the old fashioned technique of just standing up and going to the back of the room and making sure I don't fall asleep.
Yeah, maybe you ought to get you a can of tomatoes or something, put it on your desk, kind of help remind you. Tomato farm, baby. That's where I could be right now.
Oh man, no doubt.
Okay, next one. So, on game days, sideline or press box for you?
Oh, that's a hard one, man. That's a hard one because I love the fact that you could, when you're on the field, you could get into it with your guys. Like you could feel the emotions on the sideline, and I think that has a lot to do with it. Managing the sideline is big to me. But the game, you can see the game a lot. Just being able to see the game a lot better in the press box. But I want to be down there in the trenches with my guys, so I'm gonna pick the field.
Yeah. Most of the time, D-line coaches got to be on the sideline, and they're the juice guys, and they got to be the ones that gets everybody going. So yeah,
Right.
I'm with you on that one. Okay, when it comes to game day, what's on your game day playlist?
Oh man. So in the beginning of the day, I usually slow it down a little bit. I'm either, some worship music or something like that to start the day off, get my mind right, make sure we paying respects, giving glory to God, or, I might go with some Luke Combs or something like that to slow it down. Some Zach Brown band. And then when we get close to the game time, it gets kind of it gets it gets live, man. We might go with some Lil Baby. We might we go all over the place. It's gonna be some type of hip hop and R&B, or not R&B, but just some type of hip hop. Some Drake or Lil Wayne or something. I love Lil Wayne. The throwback Lil Wayne, not the Lil Wayne right now. He's kind of falling off the cliff a little bit, but the old school 2005 pre-Katrina Lil Wayne is always great.
Yeah, there you go. Well, okay. So this next question kind of takes on some new relevance because I actually today heard this as a topic being debated on sports radio. You know, with OBJ tearing his ACL in the Super Bowl, about how that football needs to do away with turf fields and instead go back to
Ooh,
just everyone being on grass. So,
ooh.
give us your opinion on that. Turf, grass. Should everyone be turf? Everyone be grass? Leave it up to each school. What do you think?
Let's go traditional, man. Let's put that grass back on the field, man. I'm a traditional guy. Like I said, I love the history of the game. I love, man, when you play little league, you got the grass things. That's how you knew if you played or not. If you had some stains on your uniform. I know it's a pain in the ass for the equipment guys. They probably don't want us to say that, but let's get the grass back going, man.
Yeah, I've said before on this podcast that there's nothing like a grass field that's really nice, you know. And now on the high school level, that's kind of rare, and even on the small colleges. But yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to say everyone's got to be grass.
Right.
Maybe they just need to make some improvements in the turf itself to make it where it's a little more
What you
like
think it
grass and
is,
more
man?
giving.
It's the give. What you think it
Yeah,
is?
I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know if it's the way that those guys are training or maybe it's yeah, I don't know. I
It's
think that,
definitely interesting.
I think that to make everyone go to grass would be kind of a drastic move, you know, but, yeah, there's something to it though. It's something that they need to look into and evaluate. But, you're right. When you play on a field that's really well manicured and really kept up nice, that's hard to beat. Okay, we'll get you out of here on this one. So, all of us, we're in the off season. We're looking to improve, looking to get better. So, what are some things like whether it's a book or a podcast or a documentary? If some people are into that, what's something you would recommend these guys checking out this off season if they want to improve themselves as a coach or as a person? What you got for us?
Yeah, just reading, man. I've been, that's where one thing that I've been trying to do a lot more of, and also listening to podcasts. So it's an honor to be on this is my first podcast ever being on a podcast. So really fired up about that. But reading, learning about how you can be a better leader. I think you can always grow in that department. And also, you could learn, just about your spiritual side, self development, as well as the culture of your team. I think that's the key to this whole thing, man. You want to win it. The fun is in the winning. So you want to make sure that your culture is phenomenal. You want to make sure that your guys are coming to work every day. And how you do that, how does that, and that's the main thing to me is making sure that culture is right. So always researching on that and seeing how we can improve, from the inside out.
Well, Coach, that's great stuff today, and really enjoyed walking through your progression with you and picking up some things and some drills and different ways of coaching things from you. And just want to wish you and the Northwestern State Demons the best of luck in 2022.
Let's go, man.